All right, guys, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. We have a very interesting slate, and we'll have just Chuck touch on kind of why the dynamic of the slate.
Yeah, we got the All-Star break coming up this weekend, so we have 11 games today, 10 games today. We have 3 tomorrow, and so we have a lot of players on the injury list, and I'm kind of just assuming that everyone sits. Like most of the big guys, if anyone's missed a game anyway recently, I'm just going to assume that they're going to sit.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray's the big one for the Nuggets.
This list is crazy for the amount of players that are listed as out or game time decision, and there's a lot of usage available too.
Oh yeah. It's going to be tough. So we'll try to, do some if-thens, but it's going to be impossible to predict everything.
Should we start out with the kind of Jamal Murray situation and whatnot? Should we start out with that?
Yeah, let's look at the Nuggets. So I'm assuming Jamal Murray is not going to play. I see no reason why they would push him. All-Star break, they can just rest him for like a week. And so that pushes Bruce Brown into the starting lineup. And assuming he's going to play 30-plus minutes, he's going to be a really good play at 5K. And I want to load up on that game right now since it's later in the night. And if other stuff pops up during the day, it'll be really easy to swap off since we'll have the open roster spots.
Yeah, you can pivot better. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. If Aaron Gordon's out too, then we're still going to go to Jokic. I think we'd go to Jokic either way.
Yeah.
And then the other guys on the Nuggets, we'll take some shots. We'll have to see exactly. If it's just Jamal Murray out, then Bruce Brown is going to be the main target. Mm-hmm. KCP, Brown, and Conchar, I guess. We'll have to see the starting lineup, though.
Any love for Christian Braun, just at a value price tag?
He's been playing pretty well, but he's been playing pretty well. If he's going to get close to 30 minutes, I think we should consider him. Yeah. I imagine there's going to be some super chalk value that comes up later. So yes. I bet Christian Braun's going to be a good contrarian play.
Yeah, there's like no way that he becomes chalk, right? Even if Jamal Murray news comes out early or Aaron Gordon news comes out early, like it's just he's going to be an okay play regardless, right? I mean,
yeah.
Ownership wise. Okay.
Yeah, and it's against Dallas, which is the team that we probably want to target players against the least.
Yes.
But with the minutes, there will be some spots we'll be looking at.
So just on the flip side, if we get into that game, we can see Kyrie's questionable, Christian Wood's questionable, Hardaway Jr.'s out, Reggie Bullock questionable. Is Josh Green just like a standout play if both Christian Wood and Kyrie sit, or like Jaden Hardy?
Yeah, if Kyrie or Luka sit,
it's Christian Wood. I think Luke is going to play.
Oh, Christian Wood. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Christian. Did you see that game? Did you see that game he randomly had? Like went off in the first half, 36 points, only 23 minutes. But I was like, oh, he's back. It was just weird.
Yeah, I actually didn't notice that he had a good game in there. I know he's been playing no minutes, and JaVale McGee's coming off the bench before him. It's going to affect the rotation. Someone else is going to get in there. But, Kyrie sitting out would be a bigger deal, I think, than Christian Wood, just because Christian Wood's not really been playing. But I would be interested in Josh Green a bit and Jaden Hardy. They're probably going to be contrarian value plays as well.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Green at almost 5K on DraftKings could easily put up, 35, I would say. Just, obviously, we're chasing the minutes there. I would expect, this production, 40 minutes or so, like he had been getting. I don't know, it'd become an interesting game, obviously, or interesting play, especially against Denver.
Mm-hmm. I agree. 4,800 for 40 minutes of, most players is going to be pretty good, especially if one of those guys sits. And then maybe if Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon sit, it's a little bit better for everyone on Dallas too. So
maybe a slight potential for game stack, not for you, for people that want a game stack.
Well, I'm probably going to have a lot of this game anyway. I'm pretty interested in Kyrie Irving. I'm kind of hoping he plays because I think he's going to come in with low ownership, and his usage since he's been on the Mavericks, even with Luka Doncic, is the same as it was on the Nets.
Yes.
And so if he comes in with low ownership, close to lock, he's going to be someone I'm going to be targeting. Like not a lot, maybe in 10%, 12% of my lineups, but I want to make sure he's in there.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Any other kind of All-Star game sits that you're worried about and that would significantly impact this slate?
Yeah, let me pull up the list.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of actual injury news or injuries that players are out, but that could sit is kind of what I mean. Miami's been banged up. They got a lot of players out still.
Yeah,
DeMar DeRozan's out.
Those are the two big ones. Harrow's out for Miami, and so that's going to put Max Strus and Kyle Lowry's still out. So it's going to put Max Strus and Gabe Vincent into that pretty good value play territory for the Miami guys. And you mentioned DeMar, and so that's going to boost Io DeSunmu and Alex Caruso. Levine and Vooch, I think, are still pretty reasonably priced, so it's going to give them a boost as well. And then Patrick Williams is another. I mean, he's pulling some. This Bulls team is pulling so much ownership right now. Right. Yeah, we'll have to see. But right now, it looks like on DraftKings, Caruso's pulling all the ownership. I think we want to get there. He's going to be great value play, 3,400. But Io DeSunmu and to a lesser extent, Kobe White are still going to be interesting. Since everyone's going to Caruso, I mean, Io DeSunmu is 1,000 more, and that's a pretty big deal at these prices. But at that ownership difference, I want to take some shots. And then Zach LaVine's pulling a ton of ownership, but so I mentioned his price was good on FanDuel at 7,600. On DraftKings, it's 8,500. And Vooch is cheaper over on FanDuel too. I'm gonna like them both a little bit more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings.
Yeah, I would agree there. And then I would say the value side of it, you're going DraftKings, you're going with Caruso, Williams, and Io there, Ao, and maybe even Kobe White. But on FanDuel, you're just going with the other guys. It's kind of straightforward. So, is there any scenario in which you get to Vooch and Levine or no on DraftKings? Just given the big slate, obviously.
Well, so the thing is on FanDuel right now, Zach LaVine is one of my top 3 plays at 7,600. And so he's not as good of a play at 8,500 on DraftKings, but it's like if I'm playing him at 7,600 on FanDuel, I'm expecting, 45, hopefully. And he puts up 45 on DraftKings. Like, that's good. It's not going to win us a tournament. The 33%, it's such a high ownership. It's going to come down, but they're tournament plays.
When did you refresh your screen?
I have not refreshed it since.
Okay, I have them at 25, so not a big difference, but like you just said, it came down a little bit the closer we got to lineup lock there.
Yeah, let's see that creep. Like, look at this FanDuel ownership, 50% for Zach LaVine. That's insane. He's an awesome play on FanDuel. He's one of the best plays on FanDuel today, but that's going to come down, I'm pretty sure.
Just as the day develops, as we get some of those in and outs. So we do have a question from Glenn. Any idea what we are going to do in Boston? And so that's kind of referring to the fact that, well, with Boston, they had Jaylen Brown out, they had Al Horford out, and they still had Marcus Smart out last game, right? Marcus Smart was out still last game, right?
Yeah, Marcus Smart's out. Okay,
and then with that, we saw really Derek White go off and Malcolm Brogdon have a good game. They just played an overtime game as well. So looking at it, we got Jaylen Brown, who's listed as out. We have Derek White, who's currently questionable, but probable to play. We'll see about that. Like we said, we're kind of worried about the potential for those players to sit. And then Robert Williams was very strangely not getting any minutes last game and only played 13 minutes, and now he's questionable for this one. So Al Horford's kind of expected to play. Tatum's really priced up. I would say Malcolm Brogdon, if Derek White sits, would be, I don't want to say a lock at 6K, but someone I'm looking at. Is there any breakdown for Boston that you feel we need to dive into?
Yeah, so with Boston, Derek White is not with the team. He stayed behind. He has like an ear problem. He stayed to see an ear doctor, something like that. So I'm not expecting him to play today, but the sites that I've seen have him projected in. But I don't think he's playing. And if Derek White's out, then I don't think Marcus Smart is playing either. So assuming both of those guys are out, either way, Malcolm Brogdon's going to be one of the best plays on the slate on both sites.
They have Smart, and this is DraftKings player news from RotoWire. They're saying he might play, but his minutes will be restricted. So he's not going to play DFS-wise for us.
Okay, yeah. So we're not going to play Marcus Smart if he's in, but it's going to affect the rotation.
Slightly. I don't think it would change it too much. Like, what is the minutes rotation, or what is the restricted minutes? Is it 10? Is it 5? Are they just trying to get him on the court? Like, I don't know. We don't have that information. So I would kind of go with how you were starting with. Let's assume he's just not playing that much.
Yeah, just assume, I mean, I don't know why they would bring him back. It's kind of like the Jamal Murray situation. Like, same with Jaylen Brown. And like Jason Tatum's only missed 2 games, I think. But
Yeah.
again, just like it's Detroit, it's not a tough matchup. But the spread has me interested because Vegas has this as an 11.5 point game, which I don't see
Mhm.
it being 11.5 points if Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown both sit. So I don't know if Vegas is projecting Tatum or Brown to play
Mhm.
based on this spread. But with Robert Williams too, so they asked the coach what was up with Robert Williams because everyone
Okay.
expected him to start, and then he came in for like a minute and a half, checked out, came in a minute
Yes.
later for 2 minutes, and he played I don't know less than 20 minutes. And they're like, was he hurt? And the coach said no. Like, what was it? And the coach just gave like non-answers.
Yeah.
And so we have no idea why Robert Williams saw that rotation yesterday. If he's not starting, I don't think we can play him at all.
No. And he was someone that in that limited minutes he really went off too, which was just annoying.
Yeah, and it's I'm excited to play Robert Williams at low ownership every day when Al Horford's not playing, but
Mhm.
if he's not starting, we have no confidence in the minutes. I've never seen what happened yesterday, so I'm not quite sure. Maybe
Yeah.
it's a disciplinary thing. Maybe he was late to practice. He is the Time Lord, so
So I looked when it happened, like when I saw his minutes go away, and then I looked this morning to see if there's any confirmation. I didn't see anything yet for it. So
yeah.
who really knows what's going on there? So I feel like we kind of touched on relatively the big news. So should we go position by position and we'll break it down a little bit more as it comes in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Before I forget, I just want to mention Grant Williams is going to be a top play on Boston, depending who's out. Also,
Okay. For sure. So we might have another question. Oh, Jose, thank you. Appreciate that. What value pieces will you suggest going for the Boston or elsewhere?
it's going to depend on the news. As of right now, my top value pieces are going to be the Bulls guys and the Heat guys.
Okay.
And then we have Mark Williams over on Charlotte, who's going to be a pretty big value piece. It's unfortunate when Charlotte plays in the first game because Mark Williams is a great play, even though his price came up.
Yeah.
It's tough to lock up these center spots. So I always say just find a balance between the good plays that play in the first games and leaving spots for news that we're likely to get later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Bulls and Heat and Boston are going to be the big value spots today.
Yeah. So Mark Williams, since we mentioned it, do you feel like he's priced up too much at 5.3 now or no? I didn't look on FanDuel yet for his price, but
I think the 5K is still okay because I feel pretty comfortable penciling him in for like I have him for 31 fantasy points today.
yeah.
That feels reasonable. In not even 30 minutes. So if he gets more than 30 minutes, I think he's a player capable of putting up, 36, 37, which is what we need. And we've seen him put up a 50 ball one time. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the 5K price is probably appropriate given his new role with Mason Plumlee out of town. He's playing
Yeah.
30 minutes a game.
See, I like PJ Washington a lot more
I love
than
him.
yeah,
I love
just
him.
yeah, slightly higher price, but I think he has more upside.
Yeah, I really like PJ Washington right now. His usage is it's pretty nice to see. Rebounding rate is up. I'm not sure if the assist rate is up, but I'd like to see that assist rate go up, and his scoring is there. PJ Washington's going to look good today, but he's pulling ownership right now. Let's see how that looks later.
Yeah, exactly. Once we get closer to line of the block and we get more kind of spread out ownership, hopefully, with the injury news. So looking at the guards, looking at the top plays on the OF index, we got Ja Morant at about 10.5 on DraftKings, about 10.6 on FanDuel. Then we got SGA, LaMelo Ball, Kyrie, Luka. So that's kind of surprising. Luka coming in as the fifth best, and then Halliburton at a cheaper price tag. The biggest kind of discounted top play would be Jalen Brunson, Mitchell, and then Josh Giddey. And then we got some balance. So we got CJ McCollum, Desmond Bain, Terry Rozier. Were any of those names kind of popping up to you as like a must-play priority type play?
I don't think anyone on this list is a must play, but I think there's a lot of good tournament plays on this list.
They're all pretty low owned too, except for Ball, who's getting about 24% ownership on DK and FanDuel on, or 30% ownership on FanDuel. So yeah, like you just said, like we probably should just spread out, maybe be slightly overweight on most of them, just because they're all pretty solid plays.
Yeah, that's how I would like to attack tonight. I'm going to be a little bit under on LaMelo. It's not based on not liking LaMelo. I want to be a little bit more balanced between these guys. So the easiest way to do that, just be a little bit below on LaMelo. I'll probably be around the field on John SGA, but Kyrie at 1% on DraftKings and the 2% on FanDuel. And then Jalen Brunson, even at that 9 on DraftKings, 17% on FanDuel. I think Jalen Brunson's a really good tournament play tonight. You mentioned him too.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite ones, I would say, just kind of given the price tag and the ownership right now. At least on DraftKings, he's 17 on FanDuel. So
yeah, he looks awesome. And then Zach LaVine down here a little bit too. Like, notice we're sorting by OF index, and we were talking about how good of a play Zach LaVine is, but there's a few guys above him that are a little bit cheaper than him. It's showing Desmond Bane, CJ McCollum, Terry Rozier, all as slightly superior plays. And so just mix it up, given the ownership.
And so you kind of just got a point in my head right now. So like LaMelo Ball's soaking up a lot of ownership, 24% at a high price tag. Then we got Terry Rozier at 7.7 and 7.5 on DK and FanDuel coming in. 7.5, 7.7 coming in at 17 and 18% ownership. That is more appealing to me than Zach LaVine at $1,000 more and about 7% more ownership and 40% more on FanDuel, depending on how it ends up. I kind of like that move there.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna just anyone coming in here with less ownership than the higher owned guys, I'm gonna be interested, especially when it's like Terry Rozier versus LaMelo. LaMelo's obviously the better player,
yes,
but we're saving $3,000. Terry Rozier is capable of putting up 30 real life points on any given night. He just he has to shoot well, but I like it.
Yeah. Especially so it's kind of like the matchup. A lot of people are getting that ownership to Ball and Rozier because of the matchup. And so it's just a kind of unique way to go about attacking the matchup with a little bit reduced ownership for a guy that can easily go off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so looking at the value, Caruso's popping up as the best value play on DraftKings, then Malachi, then Hayes, then Strauss, then Vincent, then Tate. Anyone popping up there? I know you kind of mentioned Caruso a little bit there.
Yeah, so still sorting by OF index, Alex Caruso is between Derek White and Jaden Ivey, and he's like above D'Angelo Russell on the regular OF index scale. Like I talk about sorting by OF index and looking at whose price stands out, and Caruso is half the price of the guys that are ranked around him, and he's top of the value by far. And so I don't know if this is assuming he's starting or not. It's for 27 and a half minutes. So either way, 27 and a half minutes off the bench is reasonable. And if he's starting, he's definitely going to hit that. He's going to look great, Alex Caruso.
Yeah, I think it's like he's pretty cheap regardless of the injury news that we were getting prior. Like those minutes are pretty much locked in and they could go up.
And it's not a bad matchup. Indiana is a great team to it's not a team that we're trying to avoid players playing against. And the ownership to me, it seems so low compared to some of the other ones that we've seen this morning. But
you're right. And he's the same on FanDuel as he is on DraftKings ownership wise, which 3.4 on DraftKings, that's pretty appealing.
Yeah.
So looking at, we got Malachi for the Spurs pulling up there. I don't see Devontae Graham being pulled up there, who's been someone that I've rostered a decent amount since he was traded to the Spurs. Do you think he's a good play? Do you think he should be projected more here, or kind of what are we doing with Graham?
Where is Graham on the model?
And it could be a situation in which he's new to the team and it might not be pulling it in this early, just yet in the day.
Well, he's there. Okay. We just have to scroll down. But he's predicted for 25% ownership on DraftKings right now. That seems insane to me.
That is.
Why?
I don't know. That's kind of one of those things where people probably missed out on it, and now they're like trying to correct it, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, oh, we missed him when he was 3.1, 3.5, but let's jump on him now that he's 4K. That's 25%.
So much for Devontae Graham. I know it's a new situation for him. He's on a new team. He's been playing well. He's getting he played 24 minutes in the one game. I'm not sure what happened there, but if we can, if we think that he's going to play 29 plus minutes, Devontae Graham's going to be a good play at 4K, even with that ownership. Yeah. But
that's got some sticker shock to it, though. 25%, that's a lot.
Yeah, on this gigantic slate, like we're going to get so much value. Like my default advice in these spots is just to try to get to, like, we're still going to have Devontae Graham in our player pool. We're going to have a lot of Devontae Graham, but like I was talking about with Tybal yesterday, any reason you can find to get away from Tybal, do that and get away from him. This is a little different because Devontae Graham can hit threes at a higher clip, but there's going to be so much value on this slate. I don't think we have to focus on Devontae Graham. There's nothing about him that should make him 25%. He has to hit threes. He's not going to go and get 10 rebounds or 10 assists, 5 steals, stuff like that. So,
and he could easily have a cold night shooting then too and not do anything as well, you know.
Yeah. Kind of related to Devontae Graham, the guy that I was actually looking at was Josh Richardson.
Okay.
It's like in my head, because he was on the Spurs, they kind of got traded for each other. Josh Richardson on the Pelicans. It might be weird with CJ McCollum, but Josh Richardson played the most minutes on the Pelicans last game. He has that shooting guard eligibility on both sides, and he's coming in with low ownership. I'm going to be a big fan of Josh Richardson versus the Lakers, more so on DraftKings. FanDuel, the 5,800 is too much, but 3,900 on DraftKings. If he stays under 10%, I think he's one of the best plays on the slate.
I would agree. So you're not worried about the minutes at all with CJ McCollum back? You think he's just going to be soaking up the backup minutes there, or is it? Well, or are you slightly worried, but you'll take it anyways, given the price tag?
So Josh Richardson played like 37 or 39 minutes in the previous game. And so what do we have before? We have Josh Richardson for 23 minutes, and he's still showing up as a really good value. If he gets, I imagine he's going to play 30 minutes, even with CJ in. Okay, so he only played 34. But if he gets 28 minutes, 5 more minutes added to this minutes projection, that's pretty huge. And so he's going to be a contrarian value play. Josh Richardson, great matchup against the Lakers.
And now that you mention it, I'm looking at his 3 balls: 1 for 4, 2 for 8, 0 for 3. So if he actually has an okay day shooting the ball from 3-ball land, could also easily get there. I mean, he's been strong defensively: 2 blocks, 5 steals, 3 blocks, 1 steal, 4 steals. I mean, we have that baked in there as well. So man, I like that.
I'm really glad you said that. That's a perfect comparison to Devontae Graham, where Josh Richardson has been shooting terrible from 3. He shot 4 for 15 2 days ago, but he still hit 36 fantasy points. So yeah, he's going to get the auxiliary stats, and once he gets that shooting, if he gets a hot shooting night, then it's going to be good.
I'm going to plug him in right now into the build.
I like
just for now. I mean, 7%. That's too low for that. We do have one question coming in. Are we on LaMelo Ball tonight?
So it's like, yes, we have to be. He's the chalk pay up guy right now, right? If we sort by ownership, he's 5th on the list. The only player that's kind of a pay up, also getting ownership, is Zach LaVine. And so LaMelo Ball, great matchup against San Antonio. He's a great player, but we pulled up the guards earlier, and there's so many guards on this slate getting low ownership. So I think we balance it a little bit more than the field is. And the way I'm doing that, I'll be slightly below on LaMelo probably, and then I'll just be slightly above the field on a lot of the other pay-up guards.
Yeah. And so for me as well, I see Terry Rozier as the better play at a slightly lower ownership. I mean, he could easily go for 40, maybe in 50 tonight against the Spurs at 7.5, and that's intriguing to me.
One thing too, I haven't looked at how all the usage rates have been affected since Mason Plumlee is gone. But I'm assuming that Terry Rozier's usage goes up a little bit at least with Mason Plumlee off the court.
When I looked before the trade, it was very slight for PJ Washington and Terry Rozier, but at the same time, they were more productive. It was kind of strange, like more efficient, pretty much is what it was. So it was a very small sample size though as well. So we have seen them be more productive recently as well. So I would assume yes, the usage actually has went up. But LaMelo Ball was out for a while as well, so it wasn't the best sample size.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get into kind of just the forwards breakdown now. So we kind of mentioned PJ Washington in passing, power forward, center eligible. To me, he's just a standout price point play. Now, does he have the ceiling to be in a GPP winning lineup? That's my biggest question for you today, because he's coming in at 12% and 7% ownership. So the ownership tells us he can, but can he get 40, 45, potentially even, I don't want to say 50, that's too high, but can he do that?
Yeah. I think PJ Washington is a very, very good play on DraftKings at 6.1K. 6,900 on FanDuel. It's tougher to get to, and like you said, he's probably got to put up 40 plus to pay off on FanDuel. He's capable of doing it though, and his usage is up without Mason Plumlee. I think it was up by 2.7%.
Yep.
But PJ Washington, big fan of PJ Washington tonight. And if you want to play him with Mark Williams, I'm not setting a rule, to make sure that doesn't happen, because they're both going to share the court a lot. And I think it's fine.
So if it's a blowout, does Mark Williams get more run, or does it stay the same?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay. That's the tough part right now. It's a weird thought. And then, so I do have another random question for you. On these bigger slates, do you find it easier or more difficult to cash, just in general? Or
I find it easier to cash, but it's harder to win.
Yes. Yep. I agree, because people do stupid things. So
yeah, it's definitely easier to cash on these slates though. So one thing with a bigger slate, depending on what optimizer you're using, if you're using the lineup builder, we have 3 options: low, medium, high for randomization. On large slates, I recommend using lower randomization, because you want to get more of your core guys, the guys that you want. Where, you know, on 3, 4, 5 game slates, we want to use higher randomization, because we're still going to get all the guys we want, but we need to mix it up even more. Where on this 10 game slate, we probably don't have to play any, you know, 8th man or 9th man on any of these teams, because we have so many options.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I would use low randomization on larger slates and high randomization on smaller slates, just to make sure that you get your guys.
And let me pull that up here real quick, just so people can kind of see what you're talking about there. Give me 1 second. Let's see if it fits in the screen. It's not. Okay. So it's loading right now. There's a lot of data that goes into it. Once it's loaded, it refreshes fine and everything. So looking at, we got the high risk there, and then we got the low risk right here. So let's scroll over, make it smaller so you can see. And so that's a way you can set it. And so he explained it pretty well, but that's where it is. If people aren't familiar with the lineup builder, that's available for Occupy Fantasy members. Links in the description below for that. And it's a pretty awesome tool. It is. So you can sort by ownership, OF index, all that stuff in there. So you guys have seen it featured in the videos. So
this is the single build screen, where if you're only making a couple lineups a night, you can come here and plug in your guys, and it'll tell you if you're within the, you know, basic lineup construction rules for high risk or low risk contests. And then
here, let's see.
Yeah, it's just it's a big help, even if you're only hand building, because you can see the ownership percentages. It'll tell you if you're, you know, maybe you're too chalky or something like that.
And then here's the multi-build tab as well. So it's all in there. That's a good point. I was just curious about that, because I find it easier to make profitable lineups as well. Just it's obviously more difficult to win.
Like I talk about, the way we win tournaments is we find the low owned combo that goes off with the right value plays, right? And it's it's impossible to figure it out on a large slate, where in a small slate, you know, we have less options. But today, it's going to be so random, whoever wins. Like if you looked at the best possible lineup at the end of tonight, it's probably 50 points better than whatever lineup ends up winning a tournament. So
yes, because there's a random 0% owned guy going for 30 or something weird. That shouldn't. All right, so pivoting into the forwards here, looking at it, and I'll take centers off. I'll put small forward in here. Apologies. So looking at the top plays on the OF index are LeBron at 10.8, Jason Tatum, Julius Randle, Jimmy Butler. We got Jaren Jackson pulling in there. We got Zach LaVine, Keldon Johnson, very interesting there, and then PJ Washington, Jalen Williams. We got some interesting names there. Jalen Williams, Keldon Johnson. I was not expecting that. KJ Martin as well. Michael Porter Jr. And we got some pretty strong kind of price point plays popping up on the index. What are you doing with some of those plays right there? That's surprising to me.
So more than anything, this just tells me that forward is much weaker than guard today. Because like how many guards were we excited about playing, even, you know, without scrolling down, the 20th guy on the list, where here, like we have Jalen Williams in the top 10, and he's fine, but
he is.
It's a 10 game slate. And if he's a top 10 forward overall, it's just, I think we're going to be paying up at guard tonight. And then there's these payups are great too at forward. We just have less options. LeBron, if Tatum plays, he's probably fine. Julius Randle, his usage is down with Josh Hart, which sounds weird, but it makes me very nervous to play him. But yeah, I mean, guard is just so much stronger than forward today. But a lot of these guys coming in with sub 5% ownership. I mean, Laurie, Jaren Jackson, I'm always going to be interested in. Like we've been talking about PJ Washington. Keldon Johnson at 28% is disgusting, but 6,600 is mispriced.
Yes, it is. And it is disgusting. Like, I don't know. He's not a lock to get there by any means, but he could easily go for 40.
He could. There was a slate earlier this year where I was talking about Keldon Johnson that every day he's getting plus 10% ownership. He hasn't had a good game in a month, and that's the game he finally went off for 50.
Don't you hate
But
that?
yeah, but it's like, why are we playing Keldon Johnson on a day when he's 30% owned? It
hmm
just, I think, play anybody else. We have so many options today.
What about Sochan at 5K? Like GPP wise, I mean, obviously terrible cash play,
Hmm.
but GPP wise, we see 240 burgers mixed in there. Like,
I'm okay with it. If his ownership, I wish his ownership was less. We're showing 9% on DraftKings, 8%
really?
on FanDuel. Like, if it was below
Wow.
5% on both sites, I'd say I'd probably prefer getting there over Keldon Johnson, even though the
Yeah.
price is so similar. But I'm gonna just, the thing is,
Yeah.
so I imagine I'm gonna be playing the chalky value.
Mhm.
And so the mid range and pay up guys like Jeremy Sochan's not exactly mid range, but I'm gonna try to get different
Yes.
in
Yeah, that
these
makes
with these
sense.
kind of players. Yeah,
Yeah.
not playing these kind of players.
So the unique approach at forward would just be to pay up, right?
I think so. We're probably going to get some crazy value play later. Like Grant Williams, I'm pretty sure is
Mhm.
going to be a top value play on DraftKings at a small forward, power forward eligibility. Max Strus has small forward eligibility,
Yep.
so
Okay.
yeah, we'll have to see it in a
That's
bit.
that's a good plug for the Discord chat. Be in there before lock, guys, and after lock.
Hmm. Hmm.
All right, so we'll just sort by value just real quick since we mentioned value for forwards. Dylan Brooks popping up there, 4.3 on DraftKings. Jeremy Sochan popping up there. We got Kenrick Williams, Jaron Jackson actually popping up as a decent value price point play. Dort, Al Horford, Struce, KBD, Vanderbilt. So none of those really move the needle for me, and that's kind of just echoing what you just said. Like they're fine.
They're fine. I mean, do we want to play Dylan Brooks? He's at an all-time low price of 4,300, and he's still pulling
Gosh,
3% ownership. He's been so bad this year.
he has. It's
I don't
weird.
know what happened to him.
LeBron
So
is what happened. That's ever since then he's been terrible. That
yeah,
whole
and
LeBron stuff.
this guy's like the most hated player in the NBA by the players and the fans. It's kind of
Yes,
sad.
it is. It is. And with that, we'll pivot into, well, we'll check FanDuel real quick.
Hmm. It's
Same
not
players
much.
popping up there. KJ Martin is the biggest difference there.
Yeah, like I've been talking about the Heat, Bulls, and Celtics. You know, Max Strus, Horford. I guess I don't know what we're doing with KJ Martin and Jabari, but this is going to change later.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and move into center. So the top center plays now. We got Jokic, AD, Embiid, Vucevic. Is this going to be a slate in which we were paying up for two centers?
My default on slates is usually pay up for two centers or get another point guard in there. And so I mentioned there's so many guards we like today, so it's probably
Mhm.
going to be a mix of mostly point guards or centers in the util. But there's
Yep.
definitely a lot of combos of two centers I want to get tonight.
Okay. What about with Zach Collins at that cheap price tag? Is he kind of a must play on DraftKings ownership wise? They're kind of saying that 45%, 24 on FanDuel. Obviously, going against Charlotte, that's going to be the appeal. Is he a must play?
I don't think he's a must play, but he is a good play that we should not really. I don't think there's a reason to avoid Zach Collins. Like I can find reasons to avoid a lot of the other chalk, but at
Mm-hmm.
5,100 on DraftKings, that's at least 1,000 too cheap.
Yeah.
We haven't projected for 27 minutes, even at 45% ownership. Like it's definitely too high, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you want to use the ownership as a reason to get away, I guess that's fine. But 5,100 is still a pretty good price for Zach Collins against Charlotte. It might be different with Mark Williams versus Mason Plumlee because Mark
Mm-hmm.
Williams is better on defense. But remember, we've been targeting bigs against Charlotte all season, so uh, at this ownership, I'm okay with it. I'll probably not have 45% though.
Yeah. So I'm pulling up Charles Bassey here, who really had a good game for me. I forget, like 2 months ago, where he's like
Same.
minimum price one per. Yeah, it was fun, right?
Yeah.
Um, I know that Roby's out. Are we playing him at all at 3.5 against Charlotte? Like, could be a blowout, could be thrust into 20 minutes, maybe gets to 30 again.
It's really tough because we have
Yes.
zero confidence in his minutes, and he's actually pulling 4% on DraftKings and 17% on FanDuel. Why is Charles Bassey at 15 minutes projected?
Yeah.
It's just I know he's minimum price, but there's no confidence he plays more than 12 minutes today.
No.
Like Zach Collins 6,400 on FanDuel, it's a little tougher to get to, and he's still pulling crazy ownership there.
Mhm.
I don't think I'm gonna get there too much.
Okay.
But with Bassey, I don't know if we get some kind of news from Pop, but we can't trust what he says anyway, so I
No.
don't think that matters. That's probably just a stay away for me.
It honestly could be the fact he signed a contract extension yesterday. And so it literally could just be that he had buzz, around his name yesterday. And then people are seeing Roby's out and going with it. I didn't see that he was pulling in that much ownership. You've really, the plays that I thought would be low owned, you're like, no, they're too high owned. And it's pretty shocking, honestly. Like, this is kind of crazy slate in terms of low players that would typically be low owned are getting some ownership.
Yeah. I talk a lot about avoiding bad chalk value, and there is absolute, like, Roby's out, sure, but there is nothing that should make Charles Bassey 17% on FanDuel at center only tonight. That's just completely terrible.
Is that a situation where it's the first game and it's a appealing game, so people are just kind of going with it?
To me, it's the first game, so we want to find reasons not to play these guys because we're going to get better plays later. Why are we locking up a roster spot in the first game with Charles Bassey? I think if he comes in even with like 10% ownership on FanDuel, that's just 10% of the field not competing for first.
Yeah. Even like in cash, it doesn't really make sense either. Like,
no, what is the cash build today? I don't even know. I'll pull up a cash build before we finish.
Okay. But just looking at the value, Walker Kessler's pulling in as the second best value center play on DraftKings, coming in at 8% owned. Then we got Zach Collins, Tillman, Jaren Jackson, Horford. And actually, I don't mind Horford tonight if Robert Williams is out. I just maybe like with the All-Star break coming up, maybe he gets like 3 more minutes. We got Vanderbilt, Richards, Sims. Anyone kind of popping up value-wise? I know we talked about Mark Williams and Collins. We don't need to talk about them. Any of those other guys popping up there that you like?
So Al Horford is a guy that I really liked playing last year that I do not want to play at all this year. If Robert Williams is out, I'm okay getting to Al Horford. With everyone else out, his price is good if his ownership stays low.
Yeah.
Jaren Jackson, I mean, we're sorting by value, and he's near the top of the list, even at 7,200. He's going to look phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like getting to Mark Williams. I actually bet on a bunch of Walker Kessler unders earlier, so now I'm kind of wondering about that. But I guess he's going to be an all right tournament play too.
It felt like he was getting overvalued this morning. It really did. And I don't know what's going on there. And for what it's worth, PJ Washington fantasy points on like Prize Picks and Underdog, it was set at like 30.5, and I was like, that's interesting to me. Yeah, I was like,
slow, right?
Yeah, I was very much sticker shock there. I was like, and Mark Williams was the same. I'm like, what's going on here? That was weird to me. So
with PJ, I actually took his over. His rebound went up. It was 5 when I took it earlier, but now it's up to 5.5. I think it's still a good over. Or if you take the assists.
Yeah, that's not terrible. I took the assist this morning, so
love it.
And then just FanDuel wise, we'll see here, and then we'll give a lineup and then begin out of here. Vooch popping up there on FanDuel, 8.6. Yeah, I would just probably eat the chalk there, 22%. And then AD, I'm fine with AD. Really across the board, kind of a way to get unique because he's 2% and 3%.
I love seeing these high price guys show up at the top of the value. Like Vooch is a better value than Horford at twice the price. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's accurate too. Like, should be able to go off tonight against Indy, especially at that cheap price tag.
Since his name popped up, Jonas Valanciunas is very interesting to me. His minutes are all over the place, but he's under 6K, and he's going to be low owned against the Lakers. He's a decent tournament pivot tonight, if you're playing the late slate especially.
Yeah, I mean, he's always in play for GPPs. Like, is there ever a slate in which you're like, I can't play any of J Val?
Probably not.
Yeah.
No, it's super risky, but
it is.
When it works out, it's awesome.
So let's kind of get into the core plays, and I'll do a lineup process while we're touching on that. Do you want me to start, or do you want to start with that?
Let's see what you got. Go ahead if you got something in mind for the core.
Yeah, so I'll start. So I do. We kind of mentioned PJ Washington enough. To me, I am kind of treating him as a core play. Just the minutes have been there. The production has been there. 39, 32, 35, 43 DK points the last 4 games. Obviously, gets a great matchup against Charlotte. He should be able to go off. Like, in theory, this is the correct play at that price tag. Now, if he was 6.8, we would have to think about it. But given the fact that we get multiple position eligibility, we talk about like cheating to get 3 center plays in there. We kind of get to do that tonight with PJ Washington. So for me, he's going to be a core play to start out the day. I would say Vooch on FanDuel. I would treat him as a core play. That's kind of it for me. Let me look through the list while you give your kind of top plays on the slate as well.
Well, one thing, so we got a notification 5 minutes ago that Terry Rozier was questionable. Now he's uncertain because of his hand, and now he's doubtful. 1 minute
man.
later, so I'm assuming Terry Rozier is not playing tonight. It's gonna push LaMelo's ownership up even higher. He's gonna be great.
Is that Gordon Hayward though? Is that the move?
Yeah, I like getting. So, can you pull up Gordon Hayward's last game because he went off, didn't he? Yeah, Gordon Hayward finally did it. He finally did it.
Last two though, 31-49.
I've kind of been looking at Gordon Hayward like Chris Middleton. As long as he's under 6K, he's playing more minutes than Chris Middleton. But now that Rozier is out, Gordon Hayward, maybe PJ Washington's second in usage tonight. It should be Gordon Hayward though. But either way, 5,800 for Gordon Hayward. Yeah, I think a lot of the usage from Rozier is going to go to him. He shot 9 of 12 last game. He's probably not going to do that again. But
No.
If he takes 16 shots this game, he's going to look really good tonight, Gordon Hayward.
Gosh darn it though, like that news breaking this early on the early game, like that's going to shift a lot of ownership. Any of the guards other than like Dennis Smith Jr., are we looking at him now at 3.7?
I was already interested in Dennis Smith Jr. I mean, he's playing 24 minutes every game, and now I don't know if he's going to start. Maybe they'll start Bryce McGowan's and have Dennis Smith off the bench. But Dennis Smith off the bench at 3,700, I think, is pretty good. Pretty good value.
So I'm doing this build, and right now, as it sits, I don't think we can avoid like those three: Smith, Hayward, and Washington. I think we can avoid Ball. Like,
yeah, we can get away from LaMelo.
Not a must play, definitely a stronger play, I think. But
that's might as well throw in Zach Collins at center on the other side.
You're right. Honestly, that is the move. Do we just go with power forward then, or Keldon Johnson as small forward then too?
I'm gonna leave that one up to you. How much salary do we have?
We got 9.4. I'm going crazy here. I do like Graham, and this is one of the situations in which I've rostered him the last two slates. So
okay.
And then we have way too much salary left over. But that's crazy. That's how easy it is to make a good build today. Like this is a solid build as a whole right now, given the injuries.
Excuse me.
You're good.
Oh yeah, I would say play the good value and mix up the studs. Like the good value is the good value, and then the studs, one of them is going to go off.
So you talk about kind of your roster construction a lot, about how you start with your values and then pay up. This is kind of what I like to do as well, where I'll kind of make a base build, and then wherever we can make a pivot, then I'll go from there and kind of do that. So let's say we did like LaMelo Ball, where you could go with him, and we have 8.4 left over. We could go with Murray. We could go with Ingram. Like, these are all fine plays as well. Like, I don't mind doing that as well.
Yeah. Plug in the value, see what positions we have the really strong value, and then find the pay up studs at the other positions.
So who would you pivot to value wise here? Instead, we got Josh Richardson in there. We got Smith in there. Is there any other like strong values that you would suggest over that?
Some of the guys I would be mixing in Alex Caruso.
That's right. Yep,
for
Caruso.
Dennis Smith, and then some combination of Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, I think.
Okay.
And then did we have Gordon Hayward in there? Yeah, we have Gordon Hayward in there.
Yep, we do.
Yeah, for now I would mix those guys in, and Bruce Brown is a guy that I want to make sure I have in my lineups now, because I don't think Jamal Murray is going to play tonight.
If Jamal Murray plays, is he just a really strong leverage play though?
If Jamal Murray plays, he's going to come in with no ownership, and he's going to be a good tournament play, but it's kind of risky because it is before the All-Star break. And we really need it to be a close game.
So let me just look at some other games at that time. Yeah, not much we can do there because that's right in the middle. Yeah, never mind. Can't really risk that. Okay. I would have figured there would be at least two other games at 8 o'clock. That's sandwich in there. What about Spencer Dinwiddie, 7.4?
I'm fine getting a Spencer Dinwiddie. His price tag should be around 8K, but everyone's price is lower against Miami. I don't know if that should still be the case, but I think
with how
he's
banged
great.
up they are, or
I think it's like, so in my mind, they lower the prices against Miami because they have good defense and a slower pace. But most of the time when they do that, it makes me just want to play these guys against Miami. So
yeah, I've kind of been the same. Yeah. All right. I'm going to go off of Keldon. I want to close this out. You said you had a FanDuel build or no?
FanDuel. Yeah. So my top lineup on It's going to be tough. We have to see the values on FanDuel, but right now it's like the guys I've been talking about: Caruso, Strus, Zach Collins, Patrick Williams, Mark Williams, LaMelo, and then just
Okay.
mix up the studs. For me right now, it's Jalen Brunson and Zach LaVine. It's going to change throughout the day, but it looks like Jalen Brunson is going to be a very strong play on FanDuel today.
Okay, so Jalen Brunson more on FanDuel. Okay, I like
and
that.
DraftKings too. I love him on DraftKings too.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. The price point was pretty good for him on DraftKings as well. So just kind of looking at some questions here. Yeah, we've shown the cheat sheet a little bit there, Glenn. What is the different way to go FanDuel GPP build? We kind of mentioned that. I know these questions are a little bit late. Why is Sochan so high? We don't know. That seems strange.
I don't know.
He's a fine upside play. Don't get me wrong, but he'd be a low owned upside play. So any final thoughts here?
Just to get different with FanDuel, just in general, just look at which positions are pulling more ownership, and just like if it's value at the guard, pay up at guard. If it's value at the forward, pay up at forward, and just mix it up.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. My only final thing was be in the Discord chat before lock, if anything, tonight, because it's going to be wild and wacky most likely. So there's probably going to be some elite value that we didn't even see coming, and so just be prepared for that. And we kind of mentioned it, but stack your lamps a little bit later with that.
Yeah, and Glenn, I am not going to do a full sheet for the Discord today, but if you come in the Discord, you have any questions, I'm going to be here until the last game starts tonight, so ask anything. And then I do usually post my top plays after some of the news when we have these YouTube lives this early. So join us in the Discord.
Is this one of those sites that you're going to attack more than you typically do?
Well, I am specifically today, yeah, but it's because the contests on DraftKings are so good. They gave us a $1 150 max, which it's usually a 50 cent. This one has 10K to first, which is pretty nice. It's like
that is nice,
being the same size as the usual 100K to first tournaments. And then they have that Micro Million series on DraftKings. So the DraftKings tournaments are pretty good today.
Yeah. And that has to be a situation in which this is the last good contest day. So it's a good day to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is all for today's stream. If you guys are in here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. We're trying to get to 6K, right? Is that the number we're at? Right, pretty close to it, right?
Yeah, we're pretty close. We're right at 5.94, so should be there pretty soon.
Yeah, so just make sure to hit that subscribe button, whether that be on tonight's video or tomorrow morning's video as well. Just make sure to be doing that. All right, thanks for watching, guys.